All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can record some frames and the different ways in which this can be done. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and choose New File. And then I'll just go with Standard. That's going to work. Frame rate's a little high, so I'll make this 12. And these dimensions are okay. We're gonna choose Create. Okay, and it's done. Okay, so we can close some windows here. I'm gonna put my timeline on the bottom. And I will take the hand tool, move this up, this being the stage. And I'm going to make this a little larger. This is basically the view of the cells in our timeline. So right now there's only one cell. We're on frame 1. It tells you that right here. So I'm going to make this a little larger. It's going to make it easier to see. Okay. So first thing is, if I go ahead and I have a drawing, I'll just take the paint tool. And if I just make something, actually, that's okay, but I want my brush to be a little larger. So right here under the property tool size, let's see what I have now. That's a little better. Okay, so let's say I just have this simple fish like so. Give it an eye. And then we'll just give it a color too. Maybe put a dividing line there, put a dividing line here, and get some color too. So if I go to the swatches here, sure. All right. And that will do it. Let's get maybe one more color. All right, so I've got something I can work with. You might have noticed the second I did that this frame became filled. It was like more of a darker gray. Now it's this lighter gray, and there's a black circle. If you don't see it well, let me just zoom in and just show you. So this basically is the cell, and if it looks like this, it means there's something in it. It's been filled in, okay? So if I wanted to make just a pure copy of what I currently have, I would press FN and F6. I just actually want to show you, there's a couple ways this could be done. So let's zoom out. All right, so one way is, like I just said, if I choose FN and F6, it's going to make a pure copy. All right, so I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. And let me show you up here with my keyboard viewer what it is that I'm doing. I'm choosing the FN key, and I'm also choosing, oh, it doesn't show it here. Oh, that's too bad. Let me try something here. If I choose F5 here, function key. Oh, okay, that's great. So it does. If you hold the function key down, now I could choose, like I did seconds ago, F6, and that's what I'm pressing. Okay, so that gives you a pure copy. So let's go back to, let's maybe put this off to the side. Anyway, so I'll Command Z, undo that. The other way you can do it is you could say Insert and Timeline, and you could say Keyframe. For some reason, they don't give you the shortcut that I just taught you, but you could do it that way, and now that's another way. And the other way that I know of is right here. If you hold this down, it will show you a checkbox next to whatever is, well, any of these choices. So keyframe is what it's set to. Okay, so maybe this is a good way for you to start if you're just learning how to use Animate. So if I just press this, it just makes a copy. So this now means that I've got the same drawing in two places. So you visibly can't tell other than this little clue here. So if we wanted to make it really clear that this is actually a separate cell, you could just take this fish, move him over a bit, and now when I toggle between, you can see he actually does advance. So that's the proof that it is a different drawing. Okay, so that's pretty good. The other thing you should know is how you would extend this frame. Currently, this is 1/12 of a second, this frame, because there's 12 frames per second with this frame rate. So if I wanted, I could make this last longer by choosing F5. So I'm just going to choose FN, F5, and you can see it's basically just stretching this out, making this last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different frames, five frames total compared to this one that's just 1. So if we were to play this, it would just, you'd be frozen right here for a little bit longer than this one, especially if we looped it all. Here's the loop button, and I play it. So you can see that should make sense. He's lasting here longer because there's more of the same drawing. And it just represents it by, Animate it represents this by showing you the cell, and then this extended gray is just saying it's the same drawing, okay? All right, so we're gonna turn that off. And this is very valuable. If you wanted this to not be, let's say this was an accident, let's say you just held FN, F5 for too long, and you thought, oh, that's not what I want, you can pull this all back, and this is super helpful. If you choose Shift, FN, and F5, see how it's just sucking back those frames? So there it is. Now it's reduced back to 1. Okay. So are there other ways to add and extend the frame other than what I showed you? I think so. If you go to, where was it? Insert, Timeline, and if I chose Frame, yeah, here for some reason it does actually have a keyboard command. It doesn't say FN, but it gives you the same result. So let me actually, let me try that. If I just choose F5, no, that for me, yeah, see, it does something about dictation. I'm going to say not now. So it might just be because I'm using a laptop. I don't know. I forget how it is on the school computer, but you may or may not have to choose FN, F5 to extend the frame. But you can always go to Insert, Timeline, and then do it this way too. Okay, so that's the second way. And then the third way, if this exists, let's see if we can extend this even further. Does it exist here? And I don't know the answer to this because I don't use this that often, this button. Blank frame, it does. Yeah, frame right there. So if we wanted, we could just press this and you can see what it does. So that's good. All right, so let's pull this back. Again, Shift, F5, and now it's back to 1. Suppose you wanted to make a series of blank frames. So I'm going to just highlight these frames. And if I wanted all of these to be blank, and let's say I was going to draw this again, just so it doesn't look like the exact same copy, for whatever reason you want to make, or you just want to change the drawing entirely, what you could do at this point is I chose normally FN, F7. And by doing that, it gives me, you can see, those are all blank frames. What's the proof? Well, now I can draw on this. So I could, I don't know. Sure. Now I can draw something else. And if I tried it over here, notice, oh yeah, well, let's bring it over here. Oh, it doesn't even let you go there. Interesting. Okay. So I was going to say, this is, if you tried to bring it over to this frame, nothing would happen, but it doesn't even, it would, well, what I remember is it shows a symbol of a paint brush with like a circle and a bar through it, but it maybe doesn't do that with this newer version of Animate. Anyway, so that's how you can make some blank frames for whatever reason. And if I just didn't want this drawing, I could hit delete. Notice it keeps the frame. However, if I chose, just to review, Shift F5, it will zap the frame as well as the drawing. Okay, so other ways you can make blank frames. Let's zap these. Shift F5. Okay, so probably, there it is, right there. You can set this to blank keyframe. You could do it this way. And I'm certain if you went to Insert, Timeline, and you choose blank keyframe, it will do it there too. This maybe is the slowest method, I think, this Insert, Timeline. But anyway, so you have some options. All right, so we talked about extending a frame, making a keyframe, which basically is making a copy, deleting the frame, and let's see, what else is very helpful that people should know? So we've been doing pose-to-pose animation so far. So you might remember that pose-to-pose is where you basically design something with the intention of putting your animation in a particular order, and you want to capture the most extreme parts of that motion, you want to put that first. Okay, you want to design that first. So let's say our intro frame, the fish will be here, and on our last frame, let's say the fish will be off the stage, or just his tail will show, something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this, so I can choose Command X. But if you're learning this for the first time, it's probably wiser just to go with the menu item, cut. Okay, he vanishes. Let's make it just like the zoetrope, so we have 12 frames. I'll put in a blank frame here, put a blank frame there. Okay. And I accidentally made one more, so I'm going to choose Shift F5, zap. Okay. And then here, I will choose Edit and Paste. You can choose Edit, Paste in place, but yeah, it doesn't hurt anything. Okay, so that's where the fish will be. So those are my two extremes, one there, and another pose. Let's say it's going to be on frame 6. I'll choose Command V for paste, and we'll say the fish at some point kind of veers upward. Okay, so those are my 3 extreme poses. Okay, and then in true pose-to-pose fashion, what you do next is you put in what are called the in-between frames. So now you don't have to do this, but I want you to see this just so that you have a visual that can guide you. Underneath the frame, underneath properties, which then you have several tabs, but it's property frame tab. Here where it says name, I just like to put in something. So I'll put in like, maybe I'll just call this F1 for frame 1. And the second I do that, it actually shows you. That's pretty cool. There's a little marker, okay? And then I could come to this one. I could call this F2 for frame 2. Again, this isn't necessary, but I like to do it so I know where my keyframes are. And then that tells me like, okay, here's my pose-to-pose animation. And now everything that doesn't have a little label I know is going to be an in-between frame. Okay, so that's the rationale, the reasoning behind why I did that. So if I'm going to continue to make in-between frames, and I'm not going to redraw these because I'm trying to keep the video pretty quick, but I'll just copy this. I'm going to come to this frame, Command V, paste it. Now I'm going to turn on onion skin here, and this tells me where I was. Pay attention to the bracket. So I don't need to go looking ahead. I can just look back one frame. So this tells me that the fish was here. You see a ghost image. I'm going to take this fish, I'm going to slide him maybe to about there. So he will have advanced a bit. I know he's going to end up here, so I have to think about my pacing. So I'll stretch the bracket open a bit more, go back to frame 3, extend it to this, come back to frame 3. It seems like it's not letting me advance, but I think you can, yeah. Not entirely certain how I did that. I think I just paid attention to this rectangle and then I moved the bar over. So now I'm seeing where I'm going. So that's helpful. All right, I'm going to do another paste. And again, knowing in advance that I'm going to go up to the top eventually, I'm going to move the fish here now. Come again, Command V. Okay. And then finally Command V again. And we'll say the fish should be here approximately. Okay. So that's good. Now we're going to do the same thing, only this time we're going to copy. Well, I already have the fish copied, so I can just keep pasting it. It's the same drawing. In this case, though, we know we're going to end up right here. We don't really need to look at these former cells, so let's try it. We're on frame 7. That tells you right there. Command V, paste it. And just pay attention to the direction you're going in. The greater the distance between where you place them influences the speed and pacing of your animation. So think about that. In the case of like a bouncing ball, you would have greater spaces between each ball, which would mean that the ball is picking up speed. In the case of this fish, and frankly, the size is it's a little large. We're not really going to try to make this fish look really speedy. So that's not a high priority. But just the big takeaway is the more space you have between, the faster the fish will look. Okay, so we're going to go here next, And again, I have my goal in sight. I can see it. I'm getting close to it. So maybe here I need to pick up the speed a bit. So I'm making a bigger gap. And then finally, here's my last one. And we'll say, okay, I'm going to bridge the gap between these three, something like that. Turn off onion skin. Turn on loop instead. Extend these brackets. And let's take a look. All right, so it's a little jagged. It's a little abrupt. But you can smooth it out by turning on onion skin, which reveals your whole path. If this is a little too much to watch, you can always turn on the, what's it called now? The wireframe look or the show, is that it? I don't remember the name. It just said it. Show all layers as outlines. Okay, I call it wireframe. But you can see. So this could use some refinement, but for this demo, I think this is doing the job. Maybe that actually is easier to see. So there you have it. You learned of, oh, actually, I'm going to show you one more thing. Suppose you wanted to sneak a frame in between some frames. That's always a question I get. Like, let's say you thought this is maybe a little slow. You want one to exist between 2 and 3 to make the total 13 instead of 12. How would you do that? Well, think back on what you just learned. You know how to extend a frame. So let's do it this way. We're going to go to, actually, let's go back to frame 2. Okay. Hold this down, and we want to extend just a frame. So we're going to do that. And that did it. It made it 13 frames. But we want this one to be movable, right? So if I move this, I'm moving frame 2 as well as 3. We want this to be its own keyframe. So I'm going to hold this down, choose keyframe. Okay. And by choosing it, it also applies it, as you can just see. So now this is truly its own thing. However, if you toggle between these frames, 2 and 3, it's the same thing, right? There's no visual difference. So we want there to be a small change. That's the whole point of this. And so now I'm going to turn on onion skin again, make the bracket a lot smaller just to look. Let's go back one more. Okay, put this one here. And now all we're going for is just a change of some sort. I'm going to select this one frame, zip it up a bit, and that tells me, actually, you know what? I will look one frame ahead. Okay, so let's go back to 3. And I can see that I am not overlapping where I'm going. Something like that's pretty good. Okay, so I can see where I was. I can see where I'm headed to. And I can see that this one truly is a unique placement for this fish. So that's an improvement. And that helps to smooth it out. Yeah, this jump is abrupt. So this one could afford to have some smoothing. Let's do it again. It's not going to hurt anything. We're going to make another frame. Okay, come to this one, switch this to keyframe. And then with this keyframe, turn on onion skin again. And they look the same right now. You might think, well, where's my third one? It's just because, remember, 5 and 6 are identical right now. So make a change. There it is. And that helps to smooth it out. And let's turn this off and you be the judge. A little smoother, yeah. Okay, so that is a way where you start with pose-to-pose animation. Oh, and there's this really handy button too. I really like this. Clip content outside of stage. So if you do this, obviously you can see what it did. It just basically is telling us this is the window. This is the animation. We're not going to see the workspace. So this is all we're going to provide the viewer is what you see there. Okay, so that's one way to use frame by frame, starting off with pose to pose. And yes, that's what you need to know. And especially the big takeaway was how it is you add and remove and extend frames. Okay, that will be it for this video. I'll see you later. Bye.